The Troy Murphy Show, driving you home Thursday nights from 6 p.m.
Thanks for tuning in to The Troy Murphy Show and listening live, or if you're listening back on demand, thanks for listening on demand. Great new feature here at 2SR as we put our serious hats on for this segment as we discuss the voice to Parliament that we're just not going to be told about. I've spoken about this before here on the show with some great feedback from those who heard my position on the voice to Parliament as I outlined the problem that I have on this, the Indigenous Voice to Parliament referendum that will take place later this year. And my issue is that Australians won't know the exact model of the Indigenous Voice to Parliament and what it will entail when we cast our ballots at the upcoming referendum. The federal government has received advice and is acting on this advice from an advisory group of constitutional expert lawyers, and they have recommended to our government to deliberately not take a specific model to the referendum. And in my opinions that I've shared before, I consider this deceptive and disingenuous from the federal government to go about it this way. Prior to any referendum on any issue, we should know exactly what we're voting for. Otherwise, we might just get an Indigenous Voice to Parliament that is just tokenistic and has no real effect for change for Aboriginal people, our First Nation people. Change needs to happen. We hear the stories of life in Aboriginal communities and how it needs to be better. Change needs to happen. This voice is potentially a great avenue for change to happen, but will this constitutional change, as we write this as constitutional law, an Indigenous Voice to Parliament, just be tokenistic with no real effect that ends up costing taxpayers billions of dollars each year and is just a waste of money? Or on the other side of the coin, will we get an Indigenous Voice to Parliament that is divisive based on race, giving just a small percentage of the Australian population more say than others about how the country is run? Because the Voice to Parliament, it does state that the voice will have say on issues that relate to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. But what does that entail? We don't know because we're not being told. If that is the case, this is not in line with the democratic society we live in. Now, from what I understand, the proposed amendment to the Australian Constitution states that the voice will make representations to Parliament and the executive government on matters relating to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people. That's its primary function. But will this help or will this hinder? So here's the update. As we know, the government has said that it would not fund the debate, either the yes or no case. But the problem we're now seeing is more deception, as social media platform Facebook has started banning ads that are in favour of the no vote. I don't know exactly what these ads are or what they exactly say in them in their entirety, but I have a problem with any side of the debate, no matter yes or no or right or wrong, being forced silent. It's just wrong in principle. But being told what we can hear and what we can't hear by an external entity, especially from a different country, is extremely destructive in the process of having debate and voting on a referendum to constitutional change to our law. Now, according to reports, Facebook removed a series of ads calling on Australians to reject the proposed constitutional reform after RMIT Fact Lab labelled a claim in the ads, just one claim in a series of ads, that the voice would provide Indigenous Australians with special rights as incorrect. The ads were paid by the conservative activist organisation Advance Australia and claimed that who claimed that the voice would be divisive and divide Australians by race. And I quote, "We'll have one race of people with special rights handed to them." Again, as we stand, we don't know exactly what the voice will entail. It could just do that. We don't know. And concerns like this from Advance Australia, whether you like them or you don't like them, are relevant in constructive debate. If this statement by Advance Australia is in fact wrong, then it should be taken to constructive debate and they should be held to account to what they say, not banned. It's not how debate works. There is pressure on the Albanese government to reveal its plan for what the voice will entail, as public opinion and opposition to the voice is growing, which is dangerous for a referendum because traditionally throughout Australian history, referendum or votes of referendum on the Constitution tend to fail and not go in support. So they're sort of shooting themselves in a foot that's already been shot. Now, as we know thus far, that the wording of the proposed constitutional reform says that a new body would only make representations to Parliament on matters of policy that impact Indigenous people. The broadness of that policy definition is the subject of ongoing debate in the media, in Parliament, and at, I assume, barbecues? Maybe not. I don't go to barbecues. But if I was, I would be discussing this. Maybe that's why I don't get invited to barbecues. Which is why I don't think that Advance Australia is wrong in their statement. The statement that they said, we'll have one race of people with special rights handed to them. Here's the spanner in the works. Where does it stop? You give one group, one race, a special voice to Parliament. Why not all? We do live in a world where there is a push for all to be equal. And I understand, we need to raise some levels of equality so it's better, so we're all on the same level. But when you give special privileges to one, you set a precedent, and that means that it has to be given or should be given to all. And then does it stop after race? Does gender jump on the bandwagon? Does age jump on the bandwagon? Does disability jump on the bandwagon? Side note, this week we saw the Prime Minister express concerns about misinformation about the voice being spread. Here's a tip, PM. The information of what the voice would entail, if you release that, there would be no cause for misinformation. It will be out there in black and white for all to see and all to know, and for all to make an educated opinion based on what has been given when they go to the ballot to vote. All we know thus far is that the voice to Parliament will be an independent representative advisory body for the First Nations people. It will provide a permanent means to advise the Australian Parliament and government on the views of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people on matters that affect them. But like I said, this could be just tokenistic and cost the Australian people millions each year to fund. Will it have the ability to effectively help implement change? What constitutes as advice on matters that affect Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people? And what effect will that have on other Australians? Because, there are laws that affect all Australians, including Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Will this voice to Parliament allow them to give advice on issues that affect everyone, because they also include Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people? And will their voice be heard louder by our government than the rest of the country, who only have their voted representatives to Parliament, which Aboriginal people already have? See, this is where I am on such a slippery slope. And I would like to have, when coming up with my opinion on whether to vote yes or no, I would like more information on this. There's a lot more to cover in this, and I've already yapped on for long enough. But as I've said before on this show, as it stands now, I am going to vote no, only because I don't want, or I don't know. I don't know what the Indigenous Voice to Parliament will be, especially when there is suggestion that the advisory board could expand from just advice to bigger roles and responsibilities. What does that mean? Bigger roles and responsibilities beyond advice. You know, with this segment, I'm not trying to sway anyone's vote or convince anyone to vote either way. I'm just trying to educate and update on what the current stance is. Because as we get more information, I might vote yes. I might change my mind. That's the way opinions work. We're allowed to change our minds. I'm not going to die on the no hill. I could vote yes, but not because of public pressure due to voting no and that being racist. But just like all Australians, I need more information. So we do what is right for all of our country, including our First Nations people. And in my opinion, as it stands at the moment, the Voice to Parliament for the Aboriginal people, our First Nations people, is being set up to fail by our federal government. Stick around, because coming up next, another serious topic. We will do some fun in this show today, I promise. The Court of Public Opinion is in session as we discuss the case and bring down the gauntlet on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle.
The Troy Murphy Show.